Hi, this is Kirk, the bariatric carnivore, fresh back from the Oklahoma Heart Hospital. And I got bad news for the vegans. I know you guys have been thinking, oh, I knew it was going to happen. This guy has been pushing for a low-carb, high-fat diet. Finally had his heart attack. Nope, didn't happen. It was, however, a blood clot in the lungs, which I will do a future video on about that whole situation. That's not really the purpose of this video. But let's talk about some of the life experiences I learned while I was in the heart hospital, because there's some great lessons that I think are highly applicable to virtually anybody that is going to be facing medical emergencies down the road. But let's say for right now, what happened in a nutshell was, for the last few weeks, I have noticed that something has been going on. I just kind of assumed it was a virus. My shirts were getting tighter. I was gaining weight. I wasn't quite sure what was going on. And then the Tuesday night going into Wednesday morning, I could not sleep. I mean, it was like I was drowning. My heart was racing. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I go over to an urgent care place, and they just kicked me out, sent me to the emergency room. They're thinking, their thought was I was having a heart attack. Well, I go over to the Oklahoma Heart Hospital, and they do blood checks and all that stuff and go, good news, not a heart attack. Bad news is you got a blood clot in your lungs. And that's what's creating this problem. It created a peculiar cascade of events where the heart was not able to clear fluids out because of the blood clot. We got circulatory problems, and it just mushroomed over time, hit a critical mass. My resting pulse was over 150, which is kind of amazing. I was kind of stunned that it could get that high. I can't get it that high when I'm doing sprint training. So the fact that it was that high was pretty remarkable. So what do you mean you can learn life lessons from that? Well, let's talk about different life lessons that I learned from my experience. Number one, being healthy matters. And it matters more than you might think. And this is a great case in point. Look, just because you were shot at some point in your life, somebody hits you with a bullet, that does not make you bulletproof. Just because you're healthy doesn't mean viruses don't happen, cancers don't happen, trauma doesn't happen, or blood clots don't happen. I mean, look, frankly, I was kind of doing a little pity party for a couple minutes going, oh man, I mean, here I am trying to get all healthy and all this stuff, and I still have a blood clot. Yeah, but it depends on how quickly you can get back up on the horse, how quickly you can recover from it. Wednesday afternoon, I get over to the emergency room. I get to the heart hospital, get triaged. We figure out that it's a blood clot later on. They have to, because the heart is racing and the chemicals that they're injecting in there to reduce the heart rate won't touch it. There's no other option. They're going to have to shock one of the valves to get it back into rhythm. And once that happened, boom, able to clear out all that fluid. I lost like 20 some odd pounds already in just a couple of days with all that fluid getting out of my system. It is tremendous. But let me put it in perspective for you. This is Wednesday when all this stuff is happening. My heart is racing over 150 beats Wednesday and Thursday. They shock it on Thursday. Friday morning, I'm driving myself home. I mean, really, Thursday afternoon, I'm walking around the room pretty much fine, taking a shower. Really, I would have gone home if they'd let me. They just wouldn't, because they needed to keep me over night for observation and I think that's understandable. But that's kind of remarkable at one level for a 60-year-old dude to get his heart shocked and be ready to leave the next day. Being healthy makes a difference. Being healthy allows you to recover. Look, diet lifestyle isn't going to change the heartbeat, and it's not going to take care of the blood clot. But being healthy allows you to recover from the shock and the trauma, to be able to, so it can take over once the emergency, the acute emergency is over, and help you heal. And the healthier you are, the quicker you can heal. Back when 15, 20 years ago, when I had appendicitis, I was fat, metabolically unhealthy. It took over 6 weeks to recover from that little stupid surgery. It shouldn't have taken that long, but it took that long because they had to cut through so much damn fat in order to get to the appendix and clean things out, etc. That's the difference between being healthy and not being healthy. So being healthy does matter. Frankly, it's one level, is kind of a wake-up call that if this had happened to me 10 years ago, when I weighed over 300 pounds and was metabolically unhealthy, it would have killed me. I don't think I would have had the margin to be able to recover. So being healthy matters. Number 2, key takeaway. Physician-owned facilities matter more than I thought. I thought that was important, but man, the Oklahoma Heart Hospital is 51% physician-owned, and it shows. I had 3 of my kids have been born in different hospitals in Oklahoma City, and they have gone downhill dramatically over the last 20 years. Why? Because they're no longer physician run. They are instead being run by bean counters and MBAs, and the quality of care has been dropping precipitously, and you can look at it. The facilities aren't as nice. They've been replacing RNs with LPNs. The staffs look burned out, tired, and haggard. They're not paying attention to detail, and it shows. The thing I love about this physician-owned place is the people that were there wanted to be there, and the doctors wanted them. They can get rid of bad nurses. They don't have to put up with dead weight. They can get high-quality people that are really excited about their jobs, and it shows. So I can't recommend that stuff enough. If it's at all up to you, go to a physician-owned group, not something that is run by MBAs and bean counters. Number 3, little things matter more than you know. There's a study that got a lot of press a few years ago. It may or may not be accurate, but it seems pretty close. That the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States are medical mistakes. And it's not cutting off the wrong leg. That happens so infrequently that becomes national news. No, what's going to kill you is when somebody is tired and they're not all that good, and they mistake centimeter for millimeter, and their drug that they give you is off by a factor of 10. That's what's going to kill you. It's those little mistakes. And I love this facility because before they gave you a medicine, they quadruple checked everything. The first thing they did was they asked for my name and my birth date. They made sure that I was the same person. They scanned my bracelet to make sure that that bracelet matched up with their computer record. They were quadruple checking before they gave me medication. And one nurse apologized for it, and I said, don't apologize for it. This is what's keeping me alive, and I appreciate it. And when you see that kind of ridiculous, almost anal attention to detail, rejoice. That is a great thing, particularly in medicine, because those little mistakes are what's going to kill you. So watch, see how the staff does the little things, and if they're doing the little things right, the big things will take care of themselves. One of the things I noticed that really impressed me was the ultrasound tech. When they were putting away the cables after stuff, he was winding them very carefully. He took a little bit of extra time to make sure that he was maintaining good cord discipline so that everything went back in the box properly. Because, frankly, in a case of an emergency, you don't have time to untangle cords because somebody's life is on the line. So when you see the staff, when something gets used, they're replacing it and they're put in the proper place, that's a good sign. Those little things make all the difference in the world. Now, those are all the plus things. And it's like I keep saying, we have I think, frankly, the best system in the planet when it comes to acute care. When you've got an absolute emergency, we're number one. And I really do appreciate it. And I love the medical profession for being able to take care of acute emergencies better than anybody else. This is what's going to keep you alive. But now let's talk about the downsides. And this is one that's kind of a wash. It wasn't a horror, but it wasn't a great thing either, and that was the food. Now, I know it's funny, it's easy to make jokes about hospital food, but there were options, there were choices that you could eat, and they had their own little cafe, and I thought it was pretty darn good, to tell you the truth. And I was thankful that they had options for people like me. They had real meat. I could get steak, I could get meat, and I was very happy about it. The downside is, I'm looking at most of the patients there. They're metabolically unhealthy. Most of them are type 2 diabetics. Yeah, I mean, you just look at them and you can realize that's the case. Because they're fat and they got problems and you can just see it a mile away. So what are they offering them for food options? Cheerios, apple juice, almond milk. I couldn't get eggs in this place. Instead, they've got artificial egg substitutes. I couldn't get bacon. They had turkey bacon or sausage or something like that. I mean, just human pet chow. But at least I was able to get steak. So I only ate 2 meals over there, and thankfully I was able to get meat. But, try to get butter or salt or eggs in a heart hospital, and apparently that is still a problem. But they will give you high sugary foods, and there was too many of those options. I mean, I was wandering around the halls on Friday because I'm bored and I'm waiting to get discharged and I need to stretch my legs. So I'm wandering around and there's some poor guy, he had his door wide open, he's eating breakfast, and his leg is, he's obviously had his leg amputated already because he's a type 2 diabetic. He was fat, he was miserable. And what is he eating? A heart-healthy Cheerios breakfast with apple juice. And I'm just looking at him going, you're a type 2 diabetic and you're spiking the hell out of your blood sugar like that. Why won't anybody in this hospital tell you differently? Frankly, because they don't know much better. They don't treat nutrition at any of these institutions. It's a sad reality. So recognize that, look, and really in most hospitals, you better hope you've got a friend that is willing to bring you some hamburger patties or a steak or something, because trying to get real hardcore good food is really darn difficult, though not, thankfully, impossible there. I was shocked that you're at a heart hospital. Here I am at a heart hospital. You would think somebody would ask me some questions about heart important stuff, like what do you eat, what type of exercise do you get, how well do you sleep? Not a question. Frankly, it's because the next key takeaway is they're not going to get you healthy, guys. They'll take care of your acute injury, but if you go to the hospital thinking you're going to get healthy when you leave, fat chance. You're on your own. Recognize the fact that these places in the medical system is not going to get you healthy. If you really want to get healthy, you are going to have to figure this stuff out on your own. It isn't going to come from the heart hospital. I mean, it seems like that's where you should be able to learn about that stuff. Unfortunately, not. So, they're not going to get you well. They're not going to get you healthy. But they will take care of the acute emergency. And frankly, if that is all they're going to do and you recognize it and you're good with that, we're fine. And that's, I knew that that was probably the case, but to see it on display was fascinating to me. But that's the reality. Now, the saddest reality of this whole experience was this. Trial lawyers and defensive medicine have destroyed all communication that you should be able to have with your doctor. It pains me to say this, but I could not really have an honest communication with any of the physicians. I wanted to know, what do I need to do to avoid this? Couldn't get a good answer on that one. What do I need to do lifestyle-wise to improve my condition? No answers. They want to put me on a drug that costs $600 a month. It's a blood thinner. And since I've been back, I've been looking that up and realizing that's a lot of money for something that has very little real advantage. You need to understand the difference between relative risk and absolute risk. And when you look at the studies, you will see that, oh my gosh, if you're on a blood thinner after having a blood clot, your chances of having a blood clot are dramatically increased. And if you are on a blood thinner, your chances of having that future blood clots goes down. And statistically, with relative risk, yes, that's the way it looks. But let's look at it from a perspective of absolute risk. And I'm not giving you right now the exact figures. I'm just kind of pulling these out. But let's just say hypothetically, okay, out of 1,000 patients who are metabolically healthy, not type 2 diabetics, but metabolically healthy, of those 1,000 patients, and we're going to break them down into two groups. One of them gets a blood thinner, one of them doesn't. How many people that are not on the blood thinner are going to get blood clots? And let's say hypothetically, 2. 2 out of the 1,000 will get a blood clot if they're not having the blood thinner. If you do get the blood thinner, it's 1 out of 1,000. Now, the way it shows up on the relative risk is, you have a 50% risk reduction of having future blood clots by taking the blood thinner. But when you look at it in terms of real risk, the absolute risk, how this thing looks in real life, you get to pay $600 a month for the rest of your life for a drug that may reduce your risk of getting a blood clot from being 1 in 1,000 to 2 in 1,000. When you look at it from that perspective and you look at the side effects of that medication, that doesn't look all that great. That's the type of real conversation you want to have with your doctor, but you're not going to have it. And you know why? Because of trial lawyers. Because what's going to happen, and they know it, is if you are one of those people and you have that discussion with them and you decide, okay, I'm not going to take the blood thinner, and you get future blood clots and you have a problem down the road, they're going to get sued. And they know that they're going to get sued for that, for not, for talking you out of getting the blood thinner. And they know that some damn trial lawyer is going to say, look, there's a 50% risk reduction, and that's the way the jury is going to look at it. And you can try to explain to them, look, we're talking about 1 out of 1,000 or 2 out of 1,000. It's not that big a deal. But that's not what's going to carry the day. And as a result, we're practicing ridiculous defensive medicine, driving up the cost of healthcare, making life more expensive, and subjecting people like me to risks of side effects taking fairly new medications. And I can't have that conversation with the doctor because they have got to cover their own butts. All I can do is look up the studies myself. I'm going to have to watch YouTube videos on really trying to understand the absolute and relative risk of different blood thinners and trying to make a decision. That's on me. I can't, there's no physician that I can have this type of real conversation with, because they're all terrified of being sued. And I don't blame them. It's not their fault. It is just a harsh reality of where we are right now. Because frankly, in this fight for your health, you are on your own. You're going to have to figure this stuff out for yourself. There's nobody else out there that can give you this type of information. You're going to have to figure it out yourself. It's just a reality. It's sad, but it's true. So let's kind of recount where we are. Number one, being healthy matters. I can't emphasize that enough. I mean, look, if you are metabolically unhealthy, you're putting yourself at unnecessary risk of all sorts of diseases. But if, God forbid, you have one, you're not going to be able to recover as quickly as you could if you were healthy. So frankly, get healthy. It's on you. Number two, physician-owned facilities matter. They make a difference. Look for them, utilize them, rejoice in them, celebrate them, help them, do whatever the heck they need to do in order to keep them going. Because this is our best protection in creating the best health care that you've got for when that acute emergency happens. You really want those facilities available, and you want your insurance company to be able to get you into it, or frankly get into debt to get it, because your health care, saving $50 on a healthcare visit, and you're dead, doesn't make a lot of difference. Number three, realize that the food situation is not going to change anytime soon. And I'm one of those guys that really does believe really good food is good medicine. And, you may have to get your own if you can't get good stuff at the hospital, and odds are you probably won't. Number four, they ain't going to get you well. That part's on your own. Number five, you're going to have to figure out what the realities are, particularly as far as medications are concerned, because you're not going to have frank conversations with your doctor anymore. Defensive medicine rules the day. Everybody has lawsuits, terrified, and that's just the terrible reality of the situation. This is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. Look, in this fight for your health, frankly, you are all alone in this. You're it. You're the only one who can take care of you. But thankfully, we can all be alone in this together, share information. If there's any time in the history of the planet where this is so... The wonderful thing about this time where we live is there's so much information that is available to us that we can share with one another. Take advantage of it while you can, before the damn forces that are shut it all down. Learn how to be healthy. I try to put out a couple messages each week. I will talk to you again soon.